What is this?
This is the Hola Brazil mix from Spotify. Starting to get in the mood for some World Cup.
This is just a mess. I was thinking it was going to be like Davis like 2 years ago when he went through a reggae phase.
I do like
you can find
reggae.
on his SoundCloud.
Oh no, we do need to find Davis's skateboard videos from when he was 13. Those are pretty awesome to see.
Those are the thing. You can just search me on YouTube.
I know. I'm saying we just got to bring it up. Anyway,
And we only say this because we're so jealous of how cultured you are, Davis.
I'm pretty damn cultured.
I know. You make it. I'm jealous.
I speak French too.
Oui. All right. Speaking of, I don't really know, but this is the Fantasy Insiders Daily Fantasy MLB show, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you can get in the Apple App Store. And
I am so proud of you.
Yeah, I did it. If you missed it yesterday, they announced a big announcement. That is a basically Elite Cup. It's a bracket tournament, $250 buy-in, and you can check it out there. We'll tweet it out. We'll put it in the chat. But if you're not signed up yet and want some good action, we talked about yesterday how more and more sites are kind of going to this tournament that is stretched over longer periods of time. So not just daily tournaments. It's like weekly, monthly tournaments comprised of daily games. So should be fun. I know that we're signed up, and I saw.
Yeah, I'm so excited to play Leone in this thing.
So yeah, only one early game, so no real early games today. So that means we have lots of night games and a lot to discuss. So without further ado, I'll let Davis and Dan, aka Mr. Tuttle, and Derek take over.
All right, cool. Well, first, before we get started, I'm going to let Dan talk about weather. Which games are you avoiding as of right now? Chicago, Pittsburgh, is that the main one?
Yeah, I think that's the main and pretty much only one. It looks like the Orioles' weather is getting pushed back a little bit. It looks like you have some precipitation expected during about the third hour of that game. The other one, it does look like there's potential rain in Colorado, but nothing that would be threatening the game. You're obviously not picking any pitchers in that game anyways, so nothing really to be worried about.
All right, cool. Well, we were talking about this right before the show started. Basically, you and I were sort of debating between Tanaka and Yu Darvish. I think that's probably a conversation most people are going to have. Their price points are pretty comparable on Draft Street. Darvish is $500 more on FanDuel, and I haven't looked at DraftKings prices, but I bet they're pretty similar there too. So before you and I get into it, I'm going to let Derek explain his thoughts on these two guys as far as the top starting pitcher today.
I think it's Darvish today. I think Darvish is a better pitcher in general. I don't think Miami's offense is very good. I mean, I've come around a little bit. They're better than I was giving them credit for a few weeks ago, but they're still not good. Like a few weeks ago, I was like, they're one of the worst offenses in baseball. Now they're just like bottom 10.
But Seattle is definitively one of the worst offenses in baseball.
They are, but they're also very left-handed, whereas Miami is very right-handed. So Darvish is going to have the platoon advantage against a lot more of them. He's going to get the home field advantage. It's not a great park, obviously, but he still gets some credit for being at home. And I just think all the factors considered, Darvish is the better play than Tanaka tonight. I think Tanaka's probably third on my list. He's probably below Hamels for me.
Below Hamels. You love Cole Hamels. All right, talk a little bit about Tanaka versus Darvish, Tuttle.
I'm right where there with what Cardi said. I mean, the biggest thing for me is that Darvish is going to hold the platoon advantage against pretty much any batter of consequence for the Marlins. I mean, Yelich is going to be a tough out, but you can't say that with Tanaka. I mean, pretty much all Mariners' good left-handed or bats are left-handed. So Tanaka's not going to have the platoon advantage on the majority of their better batters.
He has a sub 3 xFIP versus left-handed batters. I'm not worried. The reason that I'm going Tanaka over Darvish is pretty simple. One, I think that $500 savings difference makes a difference in your lineups tonight when it comes to acquiring some players you really like, whether it be Justin Upton, Ian Kinsler. And secondly, I think Tanaka is one of the best pitchers in baseball. And yeah, Darvish obviously has a longer track record, but just when you look at Tanaka's peripherals, he just is so good, and he has the park factor tonight, and that really matters. And someone was talking to me in chat who asked, Mariners or Marlins offense. Do the Mariners even have one batter who has been as good this season as Stanton or Yelich? Like, Cano has been good in terms of OBP, but he has no power, especially at Safeco. So I'm way more terrified of the Marlins' best hitters than I am of Mike Zunino and Dustin Ackley. Like, they might have the platoon advantage, but they're still bad hitters.
I think you do this a lot, and it's something I noticed. You're really home run focused. And yeah, you might be able to get more power, or you will have more power out of the Marlins bats. But a home run's not the only way to beat a pitcher. When you're paying for a pitch, and it's actually it's not the worst thing in the world, especially when you're paying for a pitcher. You'd rather almost let them give up the solo shot and then work everyone else than get OBP to death, which I think the Mariners have a better shot at doing.
You think the Mariners have a shot at OBPing Tanaka to death? I mean, that's obviously more likely than Darvish giving up like 3 solo shots, and that is a point. I definitely do focus on that too much, but I'm not necessarily just talking about home runs. But to me, it's a lot easier to get out of a man on first and second with 1 out than it is to just handle a situation when you're just giving out long hits all the time. When you're giving out doubles as opposed to singles, I think that matters if you're paying up for a pitcher. And I just think the Marlins lineup is better than the Mariners lineup, and Tanaka is the park factor.
I think it's better, but when you consider the platoon splits of them, then I think Seattle becomes the more threatening offense.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. I obviously I don't disagree with either one of you guys. I still think I'm going to use Tanaka tonight, but if he gives up 3 earned runs in 6 innings, that might just happen, and I'll have to live with it. But let's talk about some secondary starting pitching options. I think 2 of the starting pitching options that everyone's going to be looking at is actually in the same game, Tyson Ross and Cole Hamels. Which side of that lane do you fall on, Derek?
Definitely Hamels. I mean, I like Tyson Ross. I think he has good stuff. I think he's a good pitcher. But he's used to pitching in Petco. He's going into Citizens Bank. I think Philly has a better offense than San Diego does. Philly also has a lot of left-handed bats that are going to, potentially be able to get at him. I mean, you look at their lineup, the top, 5 of their top 6 are all left-handed. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for us.
Okay, cool. I hadn't saw the Phillies lineup yet, so that's good information. Do you like Cole Hamels tonight? He has the best price point on every site.
Yeah, I like Hamels, despite San Diego being very right-handed. They're also just very bad, and I like Hamels.
Tuttle?
I can vibe with that.
I knew it was coming. Don't like. All right.
The thing about the Phillies offense that's actually really strange to this point in this season is that they're performing a lot worse versus right-handed pitching than you would expect. And I certainly don't expect that to continue. So I think it can be a little bit misleading if you just go, onto Fangraphs and you're looking at, how the Phillies offense are performing against right-handed pitching. And I think it's a little misleading.
Yeah, you shouldn't be looking at 1 year weighted on base average anyways.
Definitely not.
Right.
Yeah. So those are sort of the primary options, though. I assume most people are probably looking at those guys. There's a little bit of weather concern in Los Angeles, or in Cincinnati with the Cueto game, so I don't think anyone will really be looking at him tonight. If that game goes, do you like him as a tournament play, Derek?
I don't have a problem with him as a tournament play. I think I would actually prefer Matt Cain to him, though, especially since he's going to come a little bit cheaper. I think Kane is in a pretty good spot tonight. I think. Do we have a lineup yet for?
Hashtag pretty good spot.
No
No
lineup yet,
Nationals lineup.
but still, Nationals are very right-handed. Wilson Ramos is down now. He's pitching at home in AT&T Park, where he's always thrived. And Kane's an underrated pitcher in general.
Yeah. I think that's probably reasonable. Do you like Matt Cain tonight, Tuttle?
I can see it. Yeah, I mean, it sets up pretty well for him. He looked good his last time out, coming off the DL, until a little later in the game. My GPP pitcher would be going up against Davis's favorite offense in Houston. Actually, if you're an XFIP guy at all, this is the guy that
Dude,
you wanna.
I would rather shove bamboo shoots underneath my nails than use McCarthy on a cash game tonight.
He said
I said
GPP.
GPP. Come on now, let's not put words in my mouth.
He's gonna give up at least 5 runs.
McCarthy's a good pitcher. Give him some credit.
No,
I mean, I'm not,
his
I'm not big
strikeout
on
rate
the
is
matchup,
good this year.
I love McCarthy.
No, hey, McCarthy is a fine pitcher. You guys are gonna learn to respect the Astros.
Oh, that's what I just. I was kind of between you two. I think the Astros are a good offense. I'm not playing McCarthy tonight, but I think McCarthy's a good pitcher.
Kyle Cannon is right. He is an elite tweeter, especially for an athlete. Normally, athletes are super bad at Twitter, but McCarthy's actually pretty good. I wish he still followed me. He doesn't, so that's pretty upsetting. Outside
You
of
said
that, I don't know.
something. I want to know what it is that you said that made him stop following you.
Probably stack this team against Brandon McCarthy tonight. probably something along those lines. So let's have this conversation. Let's have the.
Oh, it looks like Dave tagged Mr. Tut Tut in the Fantasy Insiders tweet again.
Mr. Tut Tut.
Maybe we'll get him on one more time.
Oh man, I do it at least once every week.
Yeah, that's about accurate.
Yeah.
Swag. So let's have the Justin Verlander conversation. He's 12K on Draft Street. That's a pretty appealing price tag for him against a White Sox lineup that their best hitters don't have the platoon advantage on him. How do you feel about using Verlander for that price tonight, Tuttle?
I don't think there's a reason to. Either cash game or GPP. I definitely wouldn't touch him cash game. White Sox do strike out a lot especially when they're facing right-handed pitching. But I just haven't seen enough from Verlander. He had the one good start out in Seattle where Pritchett miraculously wrote him up, and he hit like his one good start in the last 3 or 4 that he's actually had. But he's not getting the strikeouts that he used to, which is really concerning. When you're rostering a guy like Verlander, you want those strikeouts, and he just hasn't shown the potential to do that consistently this year.
That's fair. I don't want him at all, but that's a price tag that's going to catch a lot of people's eyes, I think. Where do you fall on this, Derek?
I think at that price, he's very tempting. I think I would have trouble not putting him in for that price.
I think tonight on Draft Street is a closer night. I think you go with 2 of these I think the route I'm going is Tanaka and Hamels and then a closer. But obviously you could do it with Darvish, Hamels, and a closer or whoever. I think that's the route that I'm going tonight because you feel really good about those guys in those spots. Basically, I feel really good about Hamels. I feel really good about Tanaka, and I do feel good about Darvish. He's just a little bit more expensive, but I don't really feel that good about any of these lower end starting pitching options.
See, I think there's some really interesting kind of mid to low options, especially for GPPs. Guys like Willie Peralta, Jason Hamill, I think is really intriguing if that game happens.
I don't think it's going to happen.
The weather doesn't look awful right now, at least at the start of the game.
Hey, Derek, do you like Yordano Ventura today?
Not particularly.
Well, that game already happened, and he pitched really well. So
awesome.
That's a call back to yesterday.
Yeah.
You caught me on that one too. I have not paid attention to
you weren't ready
games.
for that?
I wasn't.
Yeah, he actually came back and pitched really well, so that was encouraging. Pick one of those guys who we haven't talked about yet that you would use in your cash games, Derek. Are there any of them that you find intriguing for those lower tier
cash games? Oh, like a draft street cash game?
Yeah, like your third starting pitcher.
Well, I don't know. I think Peralta and Hamill they're both like between like 16 or 17,000. So that's I think a little high for a third starting pitcher maybe. But Wei-Yin Chen is like 11. And I think he's interesting tonight against Boston.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Are there any of these other cheap guys that you would like to mention, Tuttle, before we talk about some hitters? I think pitching's pretty straightforward today.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm paying for pitching. I think that's the way to go. So no, I don't really see any other cheap guys that we haven't mentioned that I would be on.
And do you tend to agree with me that tonight might be 2 starting pitcher, 1 relief pitcher on Draft Street?
I haven't looked over pricing on Draft Street, so I'm not sure what the pricing
Davis?
goes on. But I know you wouldn't go this route. But I know Dink and Chat posted, Verlander and McCarthy are approximately the same price. If I could go one of those with my third starting pitcher, I would do that.
Davis went 2 starting pitchers, 1 relief pitcher last night, and it paid off for him.
Oh yeah, but I don't want to talk about it.
No, yeah.
I could have won that tournament if Kluber had been good, right?
No.
Or did everyone in front of me?
No, everyone did.
Everyone
except for one.
2 people had Kluber in front of you.
What about Iwakuma? If Iwakuma had been good, would I have won? I don't really care.
You would have finished 6th.
Okay.
There was basically, it was Rockies and Braves last night.
Yeah, I was with my girlfriend all night. I didn't watch any of the games. I had no idea what happened. I came home and saw that I was in like 10th or whatever.
Obvi. And then you got called out by Chop for doing a humble brag tweet.
No, there's no humble about it. I'm not humble with anything related to anything, honestly.
Well, I know that. Everyone else doesn't, though.
Yeah. And I don't know how this didn't happen. Dallas Keuchel. I don't know how we didn't mention him. I love that dude as a tournament option. Arizona's offense is probably a little bit better than you want to be from your cash game pitcher, but Keuchel's just been so incredible this year. I don't know why I haven't brought him up. Do you like him, Derek?
As a GPP, I like him.
Tuttle?
Not a cash game guy though.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines. I think he's priced to the point where his price has risen to where I don't think there's a ton of value in him.
He's still 77 on FanDuel.
9,800 on DraftKings isn't particularly attractive to me.
No. The Arizona lineup isn't. I mean, I think they're a pretty good offense too. And like all those dudes are gonna have the platoon advantage on him because he's a lefty. But I think I'm gonna go create a cash lineup with Keuchel in it on FanDuel after the show's over. Actually, just because I really believe in him, and I think that that's no need to get any more into it than that. That's a really attractive price tag for him.
If you believe in him. And if Ricky Henderson says it's okay to believe in him at the DFBC,
see, that's the thing.
Then you'll be good to go. That's all that's needed.
Yeah, if it anecdotally ends up working out for me, then absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's talk about hitters. Stacks. Talk about the Braves, Tuttle. I'll give you the Braves.
There's not a whole lot to talk about other than get as much Braves exposure as you can into your lineup. I don't know a whole lot on Matzik. I read a few things on him. I think what's actually kind of hilarious is that he's being lauded or credited for improving his walk per 9 rate this year, which is down to 4.2. So the article I read was really happy that he's gotten his walk rate down, or walks per 9 down to 4.2. I think the first few years in the league, in the minors, it was like up in the 6 range and higher 4s. So definitely a guy that struggles with location. That's usually not something that you're not going to find, or you're going to struggle with anyways in your first big league start. So get as many Braves into your lineup as you can. I like trying to get the cheap exposure because I do like going with a higher price starting pitcher tonight. So I like to try to get BJ Upton. I have no problem getting in your lineup. Evan Gattis, everyone's going to have, but Chris Johnson's cheap as heck. Andrelton Simmons is even an option at shortstop.
Wow, you just dropped cheap as heck on us. All right.
That's right. Cheap as heck.
I guess we're doing that now. All right, Derek. A team other than the Braves you're looking to stack up. Are we about to hear about the Tigers versus Danks?
We are.
Let's hear
You
it.
have to. I mean, Danks is terrible. He's a left-handed pitcher. Detroit has an all-righty lineup aside from Alex Avila. They're getting an enormous park swing. I mean, everything lines up for them.
All right. This is not going to surprise anyone, but my stack is right-handed Cardinals bats for a couple of reasons. One, Eric Bedard is still terrible. He's still oh my god, I can't even talk about Eric Bedard rationally. He's so bad. His peripherals do not match up to what he's done so far this year. But even more than that, even if you think Bedard is like a mediocre pitcher, somewhere in between his current ERA and what his FIP is, the Cardinals' right-handed bats are underpriced everywhere. Basically, the only one that you can't afford is, or that is like unreasonable, is Randall Grichuk on FanDuel. But I think his FanDuel price is almost the same as his Draft Street price. It's like 3.1 on FanDuel, 3.7 on Draft Street. But Matt Holliday, Craig, Yadier Molina, all of these dudes are super inexpensive, given what their splits would be versus what we would expect Eric Bedard to do tonight. Do both of you think I need to stop picking on Bedard? Like, has this gone on too long?
No, absolutely not. I'm completely on board with that. Bedard is terrible.
I wonder what Tuttle thinks.
I think Derek's got. I want to hear Derek on Chris Young because I feel like Bedard is to Davis like Chris Young is to Derek.
Yeah, I
They're
hate
basically
Chris Young
like,
too.
yeah, they're the same type of guy this year. I mean, not in terms of like actually the way they pitch or anything, but they're like guys who used to be pretty good and now are terrible, but are somehow like ridiculously outperforming their peripherals, and it's just not going to continue. I like St. Louis more than I like the Yankees against them. The Yankees are kind of losing a little bit in terms of park. But I think if you want to play some Yankees against Young and some Cardinals against Bedard, you're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, I really like Ellsbury tonight. I think he's in a hashtag pretty good spot versus Chris Young. Basically, and McCann is too. So I would like those guys. Let's start talking about hitters though. Catcher. We'll say we can talk about Coors guys a little bit, but let's do some stuff that helps people. Everyone knows to play the Coors guys. So Gaddis is the top play. He has enormous splits. He's facing this terrible left-hander. If you're playing cash games, just use Gaddis. Pay whatever the tag is. I don't really care.
He's just so far above even Rosario. Like, he's so far above everyone else. It's just Gaddis. That's just.
And it's McHenry in the lineup tonight actually too for Colorado. Which I was gonna ask. I wanted to ask Derek if you knew. Is McHenry supposed to be better with young pitchers, or is there something to that as to why he would be in the lineup over Rosario tonight?
Willen's hurt, man.
Willen's been sick. Yeah, he's missed he missed 3 games over the weekend, but he played last night.
But they've been like playing him a night and then giving him a night off, though. Isn't that what they've been doing?
No, he missed just 3 straight days over the weekend. Is what it was, and then he played last night.
Well, he's sick, dude. Maybe he's like tired. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal.
I'm not sure if McHenry is supposed to be like better at handling the staff. I mean, I know Rosario isn't, a very good game caller or like defensive catcher. So I mean, maybe they're just like, okay, we don't want Rosario in there when we're putting up a rookie for his first major league start.
And I think Dink actually hit it on the head in chat. He mentioned that McHenry is recently in AAA, so he's actually caught all these guys already this year. So I think that's probably what it is. That's what I overlooked. I figured there was some sort of reasoning to it, though.
Okay, I would like to mention McCann versus Chris Young and Yadier Molina versus Bedard. I think that if you're looking for some tournament options, those guys are in hashtag pretty good spots. And if you do want to fade Gaddis in cash games, they'll be less expensive because the sites that account, like Draft Street accounts for the splits and cores, like Gaddis is 8K. That being said, I still think you have to pay that tag no matter what. Moving on, shortstop. So Andrelton Simmons is in obviously a really good spot tonight, but he's just like not that great of a hitter. And so I kind of wanted to have a larger conversation about like just using the guy because they're in cores against a really terrible pitcher, even though their skills aren't great. What's sort of your philosophy on that, Tuttle?
I mean, if you want to pick on a pitcher, I don't have a problem with it, especially in a position that you generally there's generally not a whole lot of value at. I'm fine with it, but there's something to be said about playing off your other players. So a lot of people are going to roster Chris Johnson or Evan Gattis tonight. So if you want to play off them with Andrelton Simmons, even if he's in your estimation a below average hitter, I have no problem doing that. And it's something that I will end up rostering below average people just to play off other hitters in my lineup. But like I said, I think it's especially okay to do if it's at a position that generally doesn't have a whole lot of value in it.
Yeah, like shortstop, just in general, is not that great of a position to go with. So I don't mind that at all. But it was just sort of a larger question. That being said, do you like Simmons tonight, Derek, as well?
I do. I mean, I like to take a holistic approach. I mean, you have to consider the player's underlying skills, but you also have to consider all the contextual factors that he's facing, and he just has like all of them going in his favor tonight. Platoon advantage, great park, terrible pitcher. Like I think he's a really good shortstop option tonight, even though pure skills wise he's not.
If this Matzik guy comes out and throws 5 shutout innings, I'm gonna claim him as my cousin. Our last names, just honestly, a bunch of times today I've been working on lineups and saw Matzik and then oh, that just looks incredibly familiar. So it's gonna be kind of unfortunate when he gets shelled.
It's not like Matzik is supposed to be terrible. His stuff is supposed to be pretty good. It's just he was a pretty good prospect for a while, but he's just fallen off just because he can't control anything. He's got some problems with his mechanics and delivery, and so I mean there's potential for him to do well. He'll probably strike some guys out, but I think in general he's going to give up a bunch of runs too.
What is happening with Colorado's pitching staff that they're having to call up all these dudes from AAA? Are they trying to give them starts, or were there some DLs? Is this something we can continue to expect happening in Coors?
Well, I think we've had some of their pitchers kind of go down. Jordan Lyles is on the DL. Chassin was on the DL for a while. There's someone I'm missing that I think is on the DL right now also.
Yeah, I had never even heard of these guys and their drawn starts, and I couldn't really remember why. So past Simmons, we should probably give people some other shortstop options if for whatever reason they want.
Franklin Morales was terrible, and he got sent to the bullpen. That cleared a spot.
So outside of Simmons, if you are fading Coors Field for whatever reason, who is someone that you're looking at total?
I'm fine going your direction and going with Peralta. I don't mind picking on Bedard. Another guy I wouldn't mind. Let's see.
I really like Peralta tonight, obviously.
Yeah, I figured you would. I mean, if you're avoiding that game, there's really not. If you're avoiding the Coors game, there's not a whole lot of other shortstop attractive options out there. If you really wanted to, you could get some pretty cheap Coors exposure going Rutledge, who's shortstop eligible on FanDuel for $2,900.
He's batting second. Doesn't have the platoon advantage, but you get the Coors factor. So I generally like to take hitters who are hitting way up in the lineup from where they normally are. Now, Julio Teheran has obviously been absolutely lights out this year, so he's not a pitcher you would really try and pick on. Even in Coors, he's probably still going to be fine. But Rutledge, especially, is someone that I don't hate rostering at all because his lineup spot is not priced into his tag at all. So, moving towards second base, is Ian Kinsler the top option for both of you guys as of right now? Derek?
Yeah, he's got to be your top option. I mean, there's just so much going in his favor that Kinsler's the guy.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know how I didn't mention this. At shortstop, Xander Bogaerts facing the lefty in Wei Yin Chen. That dude just annihilates left-handed pitching. Now, he's almost expensive. He's almost as expensive as Tulowitzki is at this point, but he's only $5K on Draft Street. I think I would actually rather roster Bogaerts for $5K than Simmons for $4K on Draft Street because, like I said, he just absolutely annihilates left-handed pitching. That's the one site where I would seriously consider fading Coors at that position.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer on Draft Street if you can get Bogaerts for only $5K. But everywhere else, like you said, he's really high-priced, and you can get a significant discount on either if you want to go Rutledge or Andrelton.
Yeah. Okay. Back to second base. Sorry about that. So Kinsler is obviously the top option tonight. He has a great matchup. He's in a great park for right-handed power. He's against Danks, who's just awful. He's batting in that nice spot. Is there any sites where his tag is just too high for you to get him in? Because every once in a while you'll find a spot where a guy who's a good hitter but not a great, like 8.4 on Draft Street is a lot to pay for a second baseman in the cash game. Would you still pay that, Derek?
Probably. I probably would tonight. Although, there are other options. I mean, I think Scooter is in a pretty good spot tonight. I think Howie Kendrick is in a pretty good spot tonight. So I'd have to look at some of the prices of some other guys, but
Yeah,
I don't think I'd have to put him in there when he's over 8K.
Yeah, so we haven't talked about any right-handed Angels bats yet, but I assume we'll get there. But I like the Kendrick call. Is there anyone else you wanted to mention, Tuttle?
Aaron Hill is he's moved up to the 2-hole tonight, where his price is reduced. I don't particularly like obviously picking on Keuchel, as it's backfired to this point in the season, and he's showing that he's actually a good pitcher.
No, he's legit.
Yeah, he is, and you usually don't want to pick on him, but if you're looking to save on a guy that's hitting high in the order, I think Aaron Hill's a decent play.
I will say this: normally fly ball hitters are a lot better versus like extreme ground ball pitchers, which is exactly what Keuchel has become. So I actually don't hate that at all. If you're trying to save on Kinsler, Hill has became very inexpensive at a lot of sites, so I don't mind that at all.
I kind of like Chase Utley too, even against Ross.
Yeah, I think you have to, and I think because Ross is a good pitcher, but he's not a great pitcher. And he's susceptible to the platoon advantage. I think I especially like Utley as a tournament play. In a tournament, I think it obviously still in a tournament, most people are going to be on Kinsler. So I don't hate using Utley over Kinsler at all, like in a tournament setting.
We got a question in chat. Molina, Kinsler, or Gaddis Kendrick for cash games?
Ooh. I mean, this is sort of a philosophy question, because do you want to have the same catcher as your opponent in like a head-to-head or 50-50? Like, Gaddis is going to be stupid owned in cash games tonight. So do you just want to be matching points, or do you want to try and get the advantage with Molina? I think I would tend to go with Gaddis and just hope that my other slots outperform my opponent. Just sort of trust my edge that way. But I think there could be an argument to maybe if you aren't as skilled, maybe if MLB is not like your number one game, trying to induce some variance in your games by purposely going contrarian. But I would take the Gaddis side.
I think I'm with you.
Oh, too. And I agree with Davis as far as when you have a player with as much upside as Gaddis has tonight, I think in cash games you just want to eliminate that spot essentially. You don't want to take the risk that Gaddis does hit 2 home runs and then you're already behind at least 12 points on FanDuel. I will say if that's on, well, no matter where that is, I like Gaddis and Kinsler to the point where they're probably my number 1 and number 2 hitters that I'm getting into lineups tonight. So I'd actually rework my lineups to get both of them in.
Yeah. So this is definitely related to this next position. So let's have a larger conversation about first base, Miguel Cabrera. Clearly the number 1 play, probably the number 1 hitter in your model, Derek.
Yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way.
There's no chance he's not.
Yeah. So, with that being said, how important is it to get him in? Because this is even a seasonal fantasy discussion based down to one day, but first base just has the best hitters. That's just the way it goes. So a lot of the time, like for example, sure, we have this very bad image of Albert Pujols in our head because he was pretty bad last year with the plantar fascia. But Albert Pujols for his career is like, one of the best 30 or 40 hitters in baseball history. And he's going against a fly ball pitcher at home tonight. And he is $3,000 on FanDuel. I think I would much rather use Albert Pujols versus Mion than I would pay $47 for Miggy. But then again, if Miggy hits 2 home runs tonight, I'm sunk in cash games. So, what side of this are you on, Tuttle?
I'm with you. I think you're, especially on FanDuel first base, this is a position where you generally don't want to spend because there are so many options, and the drop down usually isn't significant enough that you want to pay up for it. for your first baseman. So I side with you. I think there are other positions that we've talked about. Second base, third base, a lot to most of the time this year has been a position where you can justify paying up for Donaldson on a night because the rest of the options are just bad. But you're generally not going to get that on pretty much any night for first base. So I side with you. I don't think. Well, he might be the top hitter tonight. Miguel might be. I don't think he's a must play.
I think he's far enough ahead. I don't think I'd call him a must play, but he's far enough ahead where I'm going to get him in my lineups if I can.
Basically, so if you use Cole Hamels or if you use Keuchel, whatever, on FanDuel, you can get Miggy and the Braves guys and, Kinsler and whoever you want. But getting Tanaka or Darvish, Miggy, and Kinsler all in your lineup tonight...
Isn't Kinsler pretty cheap on FanDuel, 33 or something?
That's a lot. That's a lot when you're paying almost 11 for your pitcher, 35 for your catcher, and 33 for your second baseman. That is a very significant proportion of your cap. You're having to make big sacrifices. So, obviously, the third baseman everyone's going to have tonight is Chris Johnson with the platoon advantage in cores. I expect him to probably be the highest owned player in cash games tonight.
Yeah, so, I think if you go cheap, though, with Chris Johnson and Andrelton Simmons probably isn't that expensive, right? Then I think you kind of have a little bit of flexibility to maybe go for Miggy or whoever else.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards getting some exposure to him, but I don't think he's a must play. I mean, we've talked about this on the show a couple times, but I don't think that if it compromises the rest of your roster to such a significant degree, I don't think it's a must play. So I would like some exposure to Miguel Cabrera tonight, but I'm not forcing it to the detriment of the rest of my lineup. I like to every single spot in my lineup. I don't want to have a guy in there that I just hate using. Which, basically right now my choice is Miguel Cabrera and someone like Matt Dendecker or Cody Ross, or a first baseman that I also like, and then an outfielder that I also like, rather than straight punting. This is where Tuttle says he really likes Dendecker tonight, that he's in a hashtag pretty good spot.
Nah. He's not. He's down to the 8-hole now. He's unplayable.
He's not batting leadoff.
No, he's a rosterable player when he's batting leadoff and he's minimum price, but that's about it.
Okay. So other first baseman, if we aren't paying up for Miguel Cabrera, if you want to use someone else, who is someone that you would use, Tuttle?
I like the Pujols call. I think he's got to be high up on the list. You could go Morneau batting cleanup, but even though Tehran's a good pitcher, he does struggle with or have home run tendencies at times, so I don't mind going Morneau. Another guy, if we wanted to pick on Derek's favorite pitcher, Chris Young. I don't hate Teixeira, even though the park's not a favorable one. I don't hate that. And
I don't
also
hate
Alan Craig.
Alan Craig is not... Where is he still first base eligible? Just DraftKings?
First base eligible.
It's probably just DraftKings, I bet. But yeah, I obviously love Alan Craig tonight. I think Alan Craig might be one of the most under-owned players tonight in comparison to the spot that he's in. Which one of those guys leaps out at you, Derek, as a viable first base option?
I think Pujols of that group. I think Chris Davis, though, I think he's a very viable option tonight. He's not quite as expensive as the Miguel Cabrera, Goldschmidt, Ortiz, Freeman tier. At least on FanDuel, it doesn't look like. I think... I don't know.
Yeah.
So first base. Yeah, I'm kind of struggling. First base is. I
gotta mention my boy CJ Crone, super cheap.
Yeah, Crone.
He's super cheap. Dude has crazy. I mean, whatever. I'm gonna mention him every single time he's in the lineup versus a lefty for the rest of time, and it is gonna work out sometimes. I don't know. He's good. He has power. There's no the only problem is he is in the category of gets pinch hit for late in close games. When they throw in a righty at him, they take him out. So it sucks to only get 3 or 4 at bats from him, but he's not a bad player. This is not a scenario where I like a player who's bad. I think he's definitely underpriced for his skills. He's 2.8 on FanDuel. Obviously, I would rather have Pujols because he's in a better lineup spot and is a way better hitter, and the price is close. But when Pujols is expensive and priced appropriately, I think it's a conversation. Moving on. Third base. Chris Johnson, we already said we're not going to talk about Coors guys that much. Outside of Chris Johnson, is there anyone that you would even consider using, Tuttle?
Well, Miggy, where you can flex him. Well, I think DraftKings is the only place.
Yeah.
Beltre, obviously, pretty much any time he's actually in the lineup, he's in play. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of really intriguing options. I'm
I like
scrolling
Todd
through the
Frazier.
list now. Oh, go ahead.
Todd Frazier is a decent option. Reasonable price tag. Home matchup. Platoon advantage. Ryu's good, but I think Frazier's in consideration. I don't know.
We got Castellanos brought up in chat, and I think, yeah, especially if you want to.
Castellanos.
If you want exposure to that game, I think he's actually getting he was a top prospect. Like, he was like one of those guys that like was being talked about in the same realm of not Trout, but of like Bryce Harper, Jason Hayward, those type of guys. No,
he wasn't that high.
Maybe not. He was a Baseball America.
Like Trout and Harper and Hayward were like top guys. Castellanos was like a top 15 prospect.
I guarantee you he was in the top 10 at least one year. That's so unimportant. But the point is he's a good hitter. He has the things you're looking for in terms of like scouting. So I think that there's a non-zero chance that he's a lot better than he has been basically in baseball this far. And I don't mind taking him against Danks at all, obviously. I think that actually might be an interesting way to go in cash games if you just think that Chris Johnson is so bad that it doesn't matter that he's in Coors against a terrible pitcher. That could be a way to create an advantage in cash games, especially on FanDuel where Johnson is so cheap. On Draft Street, I think you just have to take Johnson. He's like almost minimum there. I think you just have to do it.
Oh my gosh.
What?
I am reading Drew
Tentacles.
Dinkmeyer's. He's basically quoting a tweet from @Harding_@_MLB. Rockies trainer Keith Duggar says Doc removed a quote-unquote fatty mass with tentacles. Fatty mass from tentacles from his left index finger from outfielder Carlos Gonzalez.
That's pretty gross, dude.
Tentacles. What does that even mean? Like,
That can't be right. Right? Like, there's got to be an error in that tweet.
you know, there are some there are tissues full of like human teeth and hair sometimes.
Gross, dude. This is not Daily Fantasy gross.
Well, I'm just telling you. Like,
Right.
it does have DFS relevance because Carlos Gonzalez might miss 5 weeks. But yeah, that is disgusting. That is really gross. Anyways, I have
talk
another.
about
We can
outfielders
use
now?
that to make Steve feel even worse about himself.
I have another gross story, but I'm gonna just leave it be.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Outfielders.
If you want to hear it, basically someone's what what is it called? The mass of. Anyways,
Oh, God.
it popped at a college football game, and there was so much blood. There's like a trail of blood from where they're at.
pimple?
No, it's not a pimple. It's like a. I feel so dumb for not remembering what this name is. It's like such a simple name.
Like a boil or something like that?
Not a boy. Cyst. Thank you, DP.
Cyst, there we go.
Yes, and I even had a ganglion cyst one time on my wrist. But someone's cyst popped, and like there's a huge trail of blood from the bleachers all the way to the bottom. Like you could follow it. It was
Hell no.
disgusting. It was
This is
so
I don't-
gross.
This is a gross.
Okay, let's move on from this.
Yeah, please.
Oh,
anything
Cardi.
but this.
Oh, Cardi.
Yeah.
You
All
New
right.
Jersey boys.
Well, that was fun.
Are we getting some Young Kaiser today or what?
Oh yeah, we doing Young Kaiser tweet of the week.
I need to find it, but go ahead.
I don't have any.
Yeah, we
Joey,
missed
go-
last week too. What the
Go
hell?
ahead with the show. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, outfielders. So a conversation that's relevant to have is the Justin Upton one. He's obviously in like the hashtag best spot of all out of like almost all the hitters tonight, other than Miggy probably. But he left yesterday's game with a pulled hamstring. He left after the first inning. He's back in the lineup today, which you could interpret as a positive sign. Maybe it wasn't that bad. But then you also have to look at the contextual factor of, yeah, maybe he's going to he's going to be in the game. But if they get up by a bunch of runs, he's getting pulled early. Or maybe he just won't be himself at the plate because he's injured. And he does have a high enough price tag where I don't think that injury concern is priced in at all. So how do you feel about using Upton tonight, Tuttle?
Well, he burned me last night. And yeah, I'm nervous. I don't think I'll use him. I think I'll probably just go for for BJ and take the discount. But I don't think Draft Cheat just tweeted. If you get pulled in the first inning with a hamstring injury, you're not 100%, even if you're in the lineup the next day. So there's always the chance that he tweaks it again early on in the game and he gets pulled early. That's just not a risk I want to take when I'm paying so much for an outfielder.
Yeah,
I
absolutely agree.
Yeah, not usually want to just settle for the BJ, but I think tonight I'm going to.
Derek Carty.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. Swag. Outside of those guys, though, I really like Matt Holliday and Alan Craig tonight, surprising no one. They're just available at super cheap discounts relative to their skills, and they're facing a bad pitcher. I don't care what anyone says. Eric Bedard is not good. Like, he's just not. That home run to fly ball ratio is so stupid. Do you like those guys? If you had to, Alan Craig and BJ Upton are $100 away from each other on FanDuel. Which one would you take, Tuttle?
Holiday.
I'll take Upton.
Really? Okay.
I think the matchup is that good that Upton.
I
gets
said Alan
ahead of
Craig
Holiday.
though. By the way.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
Either one.
I heard that after you actually said. I wasn't paying attention, and then I knew you were talking about Cardinals, so I just said Holiday.
I mean, aren't Alan Craig and Matt Holliday basically the same player? Matt Holliday, Alan Craig, and Matt Adams to me are completely interchangeable human beings. Like I recognize
not
little.
Adams much.
Yeah, get Matt Adams out of there.
I mean, I'm a Royals fan, so I hate the Cardinals anyways, and they're just so I never watch them. But yeah, I disagree. BJ Upton sucks so bad. I don't care how good the matchup is. I would rather use Alan Craig.
I side with Derek now that I actually know what the question is.
And it's worth mentioning that the Coors weather is apparently getting really bad right now. I haven't seen anything like definitive, but a bunch of people are typed that in chat, and then Leone just sent that to me on GChat. So if that's true, that's going to make lineups really difficult tonight.
Well, it looks like it's going to affect the game, but not stay around long enough to cause a postponement or anything like that.
It just moved up 70% thunderstorms in the second hour and 100% in the third hour. So, I mean, but then it trails off. So, I mean, even if they post, okay, forget it.
Yeah, so I think you'll see a delay for sure, but I don't think at this point in time it bugs me if I'm going hitters because it looks like they'll get that game in.
What about the number of people that had Tigers in their lineups last night?
Didn't Rad Thad win the streak with Verlander?
He did.
That is just ridiculous.
With a 0 from his pitcher. Yeah. And if you read Renee Miller's article on FantasyInsiders.com, she even said that Michael Leone had to grimace when he was in first, but then got knocked down to fourth. But she definitely used the word grimace as a verb, which is pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome
for Renee.
Awesome for sure.
I saw a tweet too where that's like the new taunting of DFS. It's just like taking a 0 from a spot and still beating people. It's like, I'm better than you. Watch this.
Did you ever play Halo? Was that before your guys' time?
I played Halo. I wasn't very good at it, but I played it.
When you killed somebody and you would go over their body, you had like 2 seconds to go over their body and basically
teabag them.
Yeah.
Swag.
That's like what it is when you lose. When you lose a game and the other guy has a 0. I lost a game earlier to a rookie this year with 2 zeros in his lineup, so it can happen. That was like a double teabag.
Yep. Outside of those guys, who are some other outfielders you like, Derek?
Outside of some of the obvious ones that are going to be good no matter what, Trout obviously is in a great spot tonight, or even Ryan Braun. Like those kind of guys. Outside of them, I think less obvious guys. I like Carlos Quentin tonight. Even though he's up against Hamels, he gets the platoon advantage. He has a pretty big platoon split. He's getting a big park jump. And he's a really underrated hitter in general, I feel like. So I think Quentin's a good guy for the price tag. I think...
Do you like Charlie Blackmon leading off versus Tehran at all, or is Tehran too good?
No, I'm fine with that. I like Blackmon. Tehran is good, but he's not elite. Blackman's going to have the platoon advantage. He's leading off. He's at home. I like Blackmon.
Okay. What about Dexter Fowler leading off versus McCarthy? Do both of you like McCarthy to an extent that he wouldn't be in play for you? I think that Astros offense is it's solid enough that someone leading off for them I think is worth having exposure to.
What's his price tag like? Because I do think the matchup is pretty solid. As long as he's reasonable, I have no problem with Fowler.
He's probably insane on Draft Street, but he's 3.6 on FanDuel. I think that's super usable.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's too high on FanDuel personally.
Yeah, it sounds a little high, but
when you can get Matt Holliday for 3,200, Rajai Davis for 3,000. I mean, you can get a lot of guys for cheaper than that.
Would you rather use Blackmon for that same price tag versus Tehran?
Yeah.
Cool. I love when you guys help me fill my lineups out, and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
But
Torrey Hunter, obviously another Tiger. I like Torrey Hunter a lot, and tonight it's a really good matchup for him. He's another guy who's probably in that 3,000 range, or 3,200 or whatever.
You guys are totally going to get side danks tonight. I have a bad feeling about this.
You probably will. we got an Alex Rios question in chat.
For whatever reason, he just never shows up for me. I don't think I've rostered that dude once all year.
I think Rios is a decent play. I think Turner's bad enough. He's playing at home in Arlington. Even without the platoon advantage, I think Rios is a decent play.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's outlandishly priced anywhere, is he?
No, I don't think so. Rio, he's 3,800 on FanDuel. I mean, again, that's a price where
maybe a little high for me.
Yeah, 4,600 on DraftKings is a little high too, I think. I mean, he's a guy it's not, a stupid move or an absolutely horrible move to put him in your lineup, but I don't think it's necessarily a price-sensitive move.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, guaranteed dong time. This should be interesting. I think we all have some different opinions on today's game. Total. Guaranteed dong, obvious under the radar.
Evan Gattis.
Oh, so surprised.
Obvious.
Yeah.
And I have to go under the radar, huh?
Yep.
Let's go Rajai Davis.
Wow.
No power, but he's going to do it.
Inside the Parker? I mean...
He's going to do it.
Getting side danks today.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Obvious and under the radar.
Obvious is Miguel Cabrera, obviously. Under the radar... Carlos Quentin.
Obvious. I'm going to take Matt Holliday. Under the radar, I'm going to take JD Martinez. I think if there's a spot to take JD Martinez, tonight would be that night where he's super inexpensive like Draft Street. I'm going to regret this. What decision are you making tonight, Tuttle, that you already know is not a great idea?
I am going to regret thinking Brandon McCarthy is a decent GPP option.
That's not smart. Derek?
I'm going to regret... Oh. I don't know. What am I going to regret? Shit. I don't know.
Derek doesn't regret things because he's too good.
Normally I'll have something tonight, I don't know. Let me... Give yours and give me 1 second.
All right. Well, apparently, I'm gonna regret mentioning JD Martinez, who is not in the lineup tonight. I think my regret probably is not going to be having enough Miggy because I'm pretty comfortable with Pujols. So that's when he gets like 9 dongs. That's going to be bad.
Okay, I'm gonna regret fading Tanaka.
Yes. Oh, yes, you will. That is factual.
No, I'm not going to regret that.
I'm gonna regret paying up for you.
Yep. Tanaka, brah.
Oh.
Yep.
Hey, what line will you give me on McCarthy outscoring Tanaka tonight? On FanDuel.
God, I don't know. Like I will G chat you soon. We'll set
right.
something up because I feel pretty damn confident in that.
Well, I'd be obviously a pretty big underdog there.
I would give you like plus 210.
Oh, are you kidding me? We wouldn't even be in conversation. That's like a 20-1 type bet right there.
All right, well then we'll have a conversation a little bit later.
For you guys, in constructing my lineup, would you go Rajai Davis and Matt Holliday, or Austin Jackson and Charlie Blackmon?
This first one by like a lot.
Oh, I think the second one.
That's great.
So go with the second one, then, right?
Yep, Derek's definitely way smarter than me. Also, I have to pee like so insanely bad, so I can hardly think.
All right, Dave's gonna close us out.
It is true that I got a message like 3-4 minutes ago from Davis said I have to pee so bad. Can you do the rest of the outfield? And I said, yeah, go do it. And he said, never mind, I got this. So you know that he is hurting. So with that, we'll say our final goodbye. Thanks to Fantasy Elite for sponsoring the show. Remember, if you haven't signed up yet, there's 32 spots, $250 buy-in. It's a bracket tournament. It's going to be really fun. And I can't think of anything better to do with all of your time because the app is just really, really good. So I think that's it. I can't remember. Yeah. Okay. So tomorrow we have on the show Napster Man, Davis P. Pants.
I can't even laugh. I have to pee so bad.
Davis and Mr. Tunnel 05. 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Also, check out the Daily Diamond today. Now with ranks at the end of the article. So that's pretty cool.
Hashtag boom.
Go, Davis. Go.